My guest today is Eso Tolson, a Memphis-based designer and brand strategist. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, man.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time. For listeners, we like to plan ahead of our episodes, and you've been on the calendar, I think, probably for about 3 months. And as we
Yeah.
caught up, yeah, as we caught up earlier, I was like, it's just wild to see how much time has passed because we are finally here.
Yeah. This year has been interesting. Time, what is that? Just
Yeah.
yeah. So when it came together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, Esso says he creates projects to uplift, inspire, and celebrate people. And for folks that may not necessarily be familiar with his name exactly, he's on Instagram as Cool Urban Hippie. And you've definitely probably shared one of his images on Twitter. You trend quite a bit. So I'm in the house right now with the internet celebrity. How's it
Uh-huh.
feel? How's it feel? Does this change your life or is it just business as usual?
So the whole I've been getting that a lot lately, but it's interesting because the stuff that I'm doing now and the stuff that I'm known for now is stuff that I've been doing.
Been
I just
doing.
think the algorithm hit in my direction recently to share with a lot of people. But I don't know, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Yeah. We'll get into some of that a little bit later. But before we do, I like to start out the show with some icebreakers for our guests.
Okay.
And the first one I'm going to give you is one that I give to everybody. And it is, what are you currently obsessed with?
So many things, but I think it might be AI art. I think I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with AI art now. And I think the conversation
Yeah.
around it, because there's a big conversation around AI art and is it a bad thing or whatever, but I've talked to some people about
Yeah.
it and it's interesting, but also the images around it are interesting. So I think that's like my latest obsession.
But what's your take? You're going real high level. What's your take on it so far?
So I think much like any piece of technology that comes out,
Sure.
it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
I remember being in design school and one of my professors was talking about the application at the time that had these like beautifully designed templates and other things around it. And the question that he asked was, what's going to make you different
Yeah.
from these things here? And so I was taught to not be adverse to the new technology, but
Yeah.
that it's only a tool, right? And the more I played around, because I played around with some of the platforms that do the AI, and you have to insert prompts into it
Mhm.
for it to come out the way it's supposed to be. So, like in a sense, you're a creative director on it, and if you don't know the right prompts or have the right images or information to pull from, to you can't really
Mm.
create a lot of those images. And it's just a tool to speed up the process, depending on if you're doing like a project for animation thing and you're trying to give a synopsis or at least an idea of what a character can be to building
Yeah.
characters. You can put some keywords together and say, hey, maybe something like this, and you give that to but it's really just a tool to speed up the process of whatever it is that you're trying to build. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. I think even some of the natural language processing and all those things really starting to converge right now. I know we've always talked about these things in the past. I think obviously with any progression of tool or technology, there's obviously the good and exciting parts about it, but then also there are the people that might use it for not so
Yeah.
good reasons.
Yes.
I think that tends to get probably elevated a bit more, and rightfully, but hopefully that's not a hindrance or rejection. But there's always, I don't know if you've heard of, you probably heard of this, how when you get through this level of uncanny valley, right? Like people just
Hmm.
start to reject some of these things.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I
Just
think it's
because
fascinating how,
sometimes
go ahead.
I say just because sometimes, just
Yeah.
because it's like whatever this new thing is automatically a threat just because. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really fascinating that people are actually receptive of images of themselves. I think that's how far we've progressed. There was a time when I saw a 3D version of myself. That was really creepy. It's interesting just how attractive people have been to this. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens over the next year in its current state, but it'll definitely evolve, right?
Oh,
We've
yeah.
gone from, even with the natural language, right? We've gone from short prompts to now, I think I saw somebody where they were talking back and forth to the childhood version of themselves in artificial intelligence, which is wild to me.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. We could dive into this real deep because even in terms of voice, the app that I used to edit, I could actually use an AI generated version of my voice. And I have for listeners, I actually have used it a few times. And it'd be hilarious if you all could point out if you knew what did it.
That's wild.
Yeah. Uh, all right. The next question I have for you. What is something that has surprised you recently?
Ooh, okay. I took a trip this summer and I went to Hawaii. Actually, my first time going to Hawaii.
Island?
Great trip. I went to the Big Island, went to Kona,
Nice. Nice.
and it was one, it was great.
Yeah.
The thing was when I was there, it felt like I could live there.
Mm,
And that was interesting to me from a standpoint of I had never considered living anywhere other than where I was. And it didn't until it made sense to leave.
sure.
Until it made sense to leave where I was, it didn't make sense to go anywhere else, right? Not that I'm trying to live in Hawaii, but going there and having that experience, I was like, I feel like I can live anywhere. It was just it was interesting in that moment. I felt like I saw myself there, but then I
Yeah.
was able to see myself in other places, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't
Mm,
have to be, like, stationary to one place just because of time or people or whatever." And it was interesting because also my lease was up, like, a few months after that, and so I already had to consider moving
mm,
to a different space and what that actually looked like for me, and the anxiety that I had around moving or trying to find a new place went away on that trip because I felt
mm.
like I could make anywhere my home.
Yeah.
So that was something that was like, oh, I
Mm,
didn't like I hadn't it was just like this mind blown, like, whoa, like I didn't know I had that capacity,
right.
so that was something that really stuck out this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Was this a is this a realization? Were you like working or was it just something you were just like in your own thoughts and you were like, whoa.
I think, yeah, it was like, I don't know. I think it was well, I had one of the things that I do is I go back and forth with my set comfort levels with
Sure.
things or like places I feel safe. And so I was like
Mm,
critiquing or like analyzing places where I felt safe. And so
sure.
whether that was with like a group of people or that was a very specific like place, and then like me looking at the factors that played a part in me
Mm,
feeling safe or not. And
yeah.
so I think I was in a place of like heavily critiquing those things. And when I realized that I had the power to create a situation that felt safe for me anywhere, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I can go. And so then it's okay, I can live anywhere because I know how to create a place that feels
Mm,
like a home and that feels safe for me. So I think I was just in a very highly critiquing
sure.
of my or places I am and that my safety or comfort level in those spaces. Yeah.
If you don't mind, like, what are the things that create like safety and comfort for you?
Ooh, ooh. So I think for me, I've always been an interesting fellow, I'll say, to me.
Yeah.
And so I needed places that felt safe. I'll say from like society, right? We're going to get a little
Sure.
deep. So like me growing up, I was the art kid. I was always the art kid, very expressive, emotional, into the things. And I grew up in the hood, and that wasn't a thing that was always celebrated for a little boy.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to find spaces that felt safe. Thankfully, my family did a great job of creating a space for me to just be. But as I walked the world, I had to figure out how can I feel safe? I think for me, there has to be room for individuality, right?
Mm,
For me to feel safe. So if I'm like in a public space and there's room for people to just be, especially if it's not canceling anybody else's individual in no, 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 no. Canceling anyone else's individuality out, then it's okay. That's somewhere that feels safe because I can just
mm,
be myself. And I think that's the main thing, like
yeah,
a place for people to just be, as well as not diminishing other people's ability to do that. Because I think if it's a place that isn't doing that,
yeah,
that's oppression, right?
yeah,
Basically, in its simplest form. So
mm,
places that felt like I can just be were the things that were critical for me to just feel safe and a place that felt like a home. So yeah, in short, I would say that's the biggest part. There are other factors that can make
sure.
it feel cozy, homey, and other layers, but I feel like a place where people can let their guard down. Oops. People can let their guard down and just be.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. All right, the last question I have for you. This one hopefully should be easy, right? What is your
Okay.
go-to if you're ever in a creative rut? I know you've got a lot going on. I know you're not always on, which you can always see with social media. So, um, how do you get through that? I'd even say like, how do you recognize when you're going down that path?
When I'm in a creative rut, I feel like I I think I get into a place where everything feels routine
Mm,
and nothing feels new or fresh. And I try to break out of that when I feel like everything's just monotonous, just okay, this is just the same rigmarole. And let's say a project comes up and I have to do something that actually feels new or fresh or different in some capacity. When I feel like I'm in a rut, sometimes I would just have to take a step back
sure.
from the project or things that are work related and then do things that serve me, that fulfill me, or just taking a walk, things that
Right.
have nothing to do with the actual thing I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
working on. Because a lot of times that kind of attention mm, can hinder the process. A lot of times when you're creating, you're really just experiencing things, experiencing life or having adventures or what have you. And so I think incorporating that helps to get out of a rut, just doing something different, a different change of pace that can easily help you see things differently or just like refresh your palate. Like you've been smelling perfumes and then they have the coffee beans. It's really like
Right.
coffee beans. So
uh,
what is your coffee bean? Is it walking? Is it just
Right.
doing something new? Is it like whatever those coffee beans, if you will, are for you when you're in that process is the
Yeah.
things to do.
uh, I love it. Like when you describe that, because it's not, when you talk about even the creative process, it's not like executing all the time.
Yeah,
It's understanding like your environment and processing. And you even, I think you have even like a TED talk on just like chill and not even doing
I
anything.
do.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm talking you all up. Yeah, we'll add it in the notes, but Esso has a TED talk about chilling and what that means.
Yes.
And sometimes we really need to, it was great to actually watch that because people say, chill out. What are you doing? Chilling. And I don't think a lot of people really know what that even means.
They don't. They don't. I can talk all day about it, but no, they don't. They don't know. But it's so important. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Hey, look, so we're going to wrap up with the icebreakers. We were talking like pre-show. We actually have some commonalities. You were born in East St. Louis, so I have a lot of family
Yeah.
out there, but you're currently in Memphis. Maybe tell folks about like your journey. You're in the Midwest southern part of the United States. So would just
Mm.
love to know how you've gotten into what you do today.
Yeah. Yeah. Originally from East St. Louis, born and raised. I went to university, went to Southern Illinois for a year,
Mm,
but then I got kicked out. Quick story around that is I enjoyed the college experience and I was actually there on a track scholarship.
mm.
Fun fact.
What was your event? Did you have a special?
I did hurdles. I
Oh,
did the
what?
four.
You
Yeah,
did
I
the
did
400
400
hurdles?
hurdles. Yeah, I did
That
400
was
hurdles.
that was me.
What?
Yeah, I know.
How? Yeah,
Did you
I
ever
did
run,
too.
like, summer track?
I did.
Really? I did so
Yeah,
I
did
wonder if we
every
competed against each other.
we pro that's wild. That
Yeah.
what if we did?
I think we might have, which is wait, when did you graduate high school?
So I graduated '03 actually, a
Okay,
little
so
older.
I would've definitely been doing club. I don't think I've been as competitive back then,
Uh-huh.
but, um, I definitely did the national.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, small world. Okay, we got off track, but yeah,
Okay, alright,
that
okay.
fellowship.
But track and field, that's what got me into college. I enjoyed the college experience, but they were like, "But these grades ain't doing it, for us." After that first year, I went to community college in St. Louis, and went to Florissant Valley Community College, their campus, and it was wild because when I went there and I was going for art, their
Mm,
art program, I found out, was the first nationally accredited program for a junior college. And like I lucked up on that one. The program was strong and it was set up to where after you left, you can go straight into the industry, whatever that was. If you were a designer, if you were an illustrator, if you were a photographer, what have you, like they prepared you for that. And so I was wrapping up there and I had a rep from Memphis College of Art to come through for continuing education, my bachelor's. And I said, yeah. And I went to Memphis College of Art. I got here in Memphis in 2000. And I thought I was only going to do 2 years just to finish up my bachelor's. But when I got here, I was immersed into the culture, the people, the food,
yeah,
and I found a home, a group of artists who were ambitious,
yeah,
creative, and just really dope. And that's the thing that kept me here. But yeah, all the things that led to me doing the things that I'm doing now were sparked from me being here in Memphis and the
mm,
people that I met and the things that I experienced.
yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 questions for you. You mentioned going to school for track and then the grades thing. Was art something that you were always into, or is that something that you developed once you got and started going down, like, the continued education?
No, I was always
Mm,
an artist.
yeah,
I was always going to be an artist.
yeah,
I just didn't know what that looked like. There
sure.
weren't really many avenues that were one pushing art, but let alone making it this career. The idea of being an artist is you're always going to be struggling. There's really no money in it. It's unsustainable, all the things around it. And I was trying to figure out what that looked like because I knew that I was going to be an artist, but I needed that to make sense. In high school, you do those aptitude tests, and it's okay, you're going to be a lawyer, or you'll be great if you'll be a doctor and all that. There was never one in the book for artists. But they had this thing called graphic designer, and it had salary next to it. And I was like, that looks safe. Let's go with that.
Yeah,
And I went with that. And I still didn't know what that looked like for me to go to college. I didn't
sure.
have a portfolio or anything like that. But I was running track and field in high school. And so I did well enough that it earned me a scholarship. And so don't do a sport like that and then think that you're going to be this full-time artist. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I thought
tough.
that, oh, yeah, I could just go and be like all these
Mm,
other kids who are doing like business administration or doing all that and think that it's not the same time. The
no.
requirements of like studio time, of
Yes.
time on your own to like build whatever skill set you got up to do concept work, to do
Yeah,
all like it's time intensive.
yeah,
And yeah, that didn't work with track and field.
yeah.
And then I was also trying to have fun, and I just it was
It's
a
tough.
recipe for
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah, you know that
um,
yeah. So I was a college athlete, for a couple of
oh
years.
yeah,
I was in studio art and ceramic I took ceramics and
no,
film photography in the darkroom
your freshman year?
my freshman year. Wait, that goes to show actually, that goes to show I actually wanna ask you this question.
Mhm.
You mentioned a really important part, 'cause the decisions we make today are definitely guided from experiences we had when we were younger.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
you just I'm just going to go back because you reflected on being in a space of being where you could reflect your individuality. So,
Yeah,
how do you go? Like, how do you stay the course living in a place where there's really probably no one else that did art or even thought about it or was even rejected as an idea? And then you get to a place where pretty much the whole culture doesn't even support what you're trying to do. Like, how do you remain? Because you jumped around a lot. That's
I
exhausting. It
did.
sounds exhausting.
Yeah,
So
it
how
was
did you
how did I do it? That's a great question. Think I felt strongly about my abilities as an artist,
Yeah,
and there were enough moments of praise, I think, that I got around it that led me to believe that, "Oh, I can do this." I think along with the support, like I say, with my immediate family, like my mom,
yeah,
my dad was supportive as well,
good.
and it was mostly my mom. Like she really encouraged that, and so I think that and my own belief in myself was enough. And then it was like
Sure.
a checkpoint. I would get to a checkpoint. You playing like video games or something, you get to a
Yeah,
checkpoint, and it's like, okay, I'm here now, so I can't go
right.
so I felt like with each either project or milestone or whatever, it was like a checkpoint. It was like, okay, all right, so I made it here. It was enough to sustain me until I got to the next level. I don't know how I'm like thinking back on it.
Yeah,
I just knew that this is something that I wanted to do,
yeah.
and there was really no plan B. I
Mm,
wanted to be an artist,
yeah,
and by any means necessary. So I just had that at the forefront of my mind, and
yeah,
luckily I was able to make that happen.
yeah, yeah. So the definition of artist is very broad. Obviously,
Indeed.
right now you're focusing on a lot of the letter type and you have your own
Mhm.
unique style. So maybe take us like how you move in this direction and how did you develop your style? Because your style is like, I feel like it is authentically you. And
It
so,
is.
sort of, how did you get to this point? Yeah, yeah. How did you get to this point?
I say I got into lettering because I needed an outlet from
Mm,
design.
sure. The
You know,
production part of design.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Design is a creative job, right? But it's not for me. When you're doing design, it's for the
Mm,
client with their needs in mind, making sure that everything that they need is together, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's so much attention on them. It's customer service.
mm,
It's a service job.
yeah.
But I needed something that was for me.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much space for that at the time. Especially I was freelancing. I was a freelance
Sure.
designer. It wasn't until I was an in-house designer at a local nonprofit that I could actually start thinking about things that could be like passion projects. Everything that I didn't have to turn a dollar to, like I had space to think of things that were just fun and things that I enjoyed.
Right.
So I remember with my first check from the nonprofit, I went straight to the art store and got some micron pens, got some Sharpies, got a brand new sketchbook, and I just started doing stuff for me. And a lot of my
Yeah.
design was type heavy, a lot of
Sure.
posters, flyers. I love type. And so
Yeah.
naturally, I was like, oh, let's draw some letters and see what happens. And I I didn't have a style. I was just
Sure.
like doing stuff that just felt good. And I would go out with friends or I would be drinking wine or something. And I would like drinking wine with friends or something else. Like I just wanted to create, do stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
because it's fun. Because I hadn't had a
Yeah.
space to really do anything like that because everything was just
Yeah.
so, heavy with design and client
Right.
work. But it was like maybe a year and a half
Okay.
of me just consistently doing things. And I was using Instagram at the time as an accountability partner of, hey, this is what I did
Mm.
today. And
Yeah.
so that's really how I was using Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, but then I did this one style and just developed over time. And it's my love of graffiti, music, a lot of jazz posts. from like Blue Note, album covers, and just hand painted signs, like the signs
Yeah.
like on the side of the building or painted signs on a truck.
Right.
Alan Mole's electricity or
Yeah.
whoever, like something very approachable about
Yeah.
that, very urban, very
Yeah.
city life, very yeah, just in your
Like
face. So
human
the
centric
immediacy.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that look and look that feel. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that primarily like how you earn your money, or is this like the brand thing? Is that sort of maybe take us into how you moved in that direction too?
It's let me tell you, my favorite thing to say is I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Okay.
But
Okay.
now I feel like at every stage or area
Sure.
that it's different. My income ends up being different. At one point, it was being a production artist for the
Sure.
design I was doing. Then it was consulting. Me and a friend of mine at the time,
Mhm.
we created this like consultancy, design agency type thing. We were doing design work, but then we were just doing a lot of consulting at the
Mm.
time. And so I was getting paid from just consulting. Transition from that and like lettering has been a big part of my income now. But it took all the things that I've done over the years to be able to like even figure out on a small scale how to navigate business from that perspective. But right now, yes, my income comes from lettering projects. Yeah. It's
I
wild. I didn't know that's what was going to happen. That's where
Yeah.
I'm at right now. That might
Yeah.
change like next year, but this current moment,
Sure.
that's what's sustaining me.
Sure. I think just like we were talking about tools and AI and how that all evolves, the way that we do business and how we put ourselves in the world is always up for change. I think we just need to be receptive to it and adjust, which I think is representative of just your journey so far, right? Um,
Yes, absolutely.
I think one of the things that I can even really appreciate just from looking at your work is that even it feels like Memphis has embraced you and your style and
It really
maybe take us through like your experience with that.
Memphis has definitely embraced this style and influenced it all at the same
Mm.
time. I worked on this again passion project because I had time for that at the time to really encapsulate these phrases I would hear around the city. Right.
Mm.
So Memphis is it's the South, it's the Mid
Yeah.
South, like Midwest, Mid South. It's the Mid
Yeah.
South, and it was familiar enough of a place that it felt like home, but like home away from home. And so when I got settled here, I was like just in awe of all the newness that was around me. And one of the things that really caught my attention was the language of the people, just everyday vernacular.
Yeah.
And I would just hear things that would just be brash or just so colorful in so many ways. And I'm like, whoa, okay, what's this? And so I remember, okay, I want to celebrate this. I
Yeah.
love this language. How can I celebrate this? And so I did a body of work that celebrated like the vernacular of Memphis, the
Mm.
Memphians. It's a chocolate city. And
Yeah.
so like how can these phrases that are everyday and common to the folk here be elevated and celebrated and highlight the fact that just because you slur some words or you talk with this twang, that it doesn't represent intelligence and it doesn't diminish any of these other things because you got judges and lawyers up
Right.
here. What up, man? And just this, like this very colorful, unique language. I did this project called Spectacular Vernacular,
Mm.
and it was to celebrate the language of the everyday people here in Memphis.
Mm.
And I was actually very nervous about it because what I didn't want to do was come off as if I was making fun of the
Sure.
language or if I was coming from, especially being an outsider looking in, if the way that I was portraying the language through these words was going to be offensive or whatever. Making this fine line of creating the style that was unique to me, but also using it to how this other group or these people
Yeah.
was my first attempt of doing it outside of my sketchbook. and to
Yeah.
represent something. I was so nervous. I did it, but it was well received.
Yeah.
And again, another checkpoint. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I can do more of these. And yeah, the style that I have now was definitely influenced
Sure.
by Memphis in a lot of different ways. And after it was celebrated, they were like, yeah, more of this.
Mm. Yeah. It kind of feels like, I don't know if I'm romanticizing it too much, but it does feel a bit like a hero's arc when we start thinking about like the power of art and
Mm,
expression and
mm,
representing people that haven't necessarily been heard or portrayed, as you
yeah.
say, in like the best light. So I love that piece. And so like now I want to shift into your what you do online, right? Like you do a lot of words of empowerment. Like what got you into that? I just love because we're putting all the things together. Okay.
Uh,
We've got the artistic side of it, right? We've got the space. I think there's an underlying thing here around how you approach just like the day to day and sharing that with the world.
yeah. I've always been a fan of, I'll say, like philosophy or things that would inspire people to go on. I looked at movies and even just going to church as a youth, being inspired by these words. And I saw how
Mhm.
thought leaders or pastors or professors or people in this position that had words to encourage, inspire, or uplift or motivate people or managers, like a lot of these people in these
Yeah.
positions, and how powerful these words were to the people that were listening to them. I felt I could do that in a
Yeah.
sense with just things that I would think of and the things that I have been inspired by. And I think just those daily motivations that I would receive as a kid, like from my mom, would encourage me to be the unique, weird art kid that I was. And things like that, and television shows that were
Sure.
empowering. Those are the things that I guess had me to practice that for
Sure.
myself. And it's funny you mentioned me sharing these words of empowerment people are sharing now, but the gag is all of that is for me.
Yeah.
All of
Uh,
these words are
you're
for me.
meaningful for
Yeah,
you.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and so people benefit
Yeah.
from the words that I am using to encourage myself. And so these are words that help me to continue moving forward because I feel like I need that because
Sure.
if I didn't, I wouldn't be here. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be at this level.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to operate in the ways that I do if I didn't have that kind of like determination,
Yeah.
encouragement, mindset, perspective, all
Right.
those things.
Right.
And so me doing that for me first, and with the time that I take to chill,
Yeah.
make connections with things, and it's, okay, and then I would just write that down, and then I would share that what
Yeah.
I've made connections with, and I've been doing that for, honestly, years, man, but
Yeah.
I don't know, the algorithm, the what people were able to find the things that I was doing, and it
Yeah.
really just caught on. And so, yeah, I think my love for inspiration, my love for people,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of hopelessness around. There's a
Mm.
lot of sadness, there's a lot of loneliness, there's a lot of all these things that are here, and we're all connected. And so I'm feeling these things, I'm experiencing these things. I need encouragement on these things.
Right.
Who am I to think that other people
Are gonna
wouldn't
do it.
need the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
literally that's how I do it. So the words that you see are for me first, but
Mhm.
I know that if I'm feeling them, other people may be able to get something out of it too.
Yeah. Hey, well, look, we'll end the episode there. Thank you so much. And it feels like we brought everything together. I see a lot of patterns here
Yeah.
of just how you observe things. And then there's a moment of thought and then expression and putting that out in the world. It's really great to get into sort of how you process those things and share that with us. Are there any sort of last words you want to share before with the listeners before we log off of today's episode?
I think I'll say this. If you are a creative and creative isn't relegated to an artist, creative is people who think differently. You can be a creative lawyer, you can be a creative
Mm,
manager, you can be a creative. It's really about how you view the world and problem solving. So that's what creativity is. Because
yeah.
you can be an artist just painting, and if you're painting the same painting, like how many still lifes are we going to have? There's no creativity necessarily there. But anyway, if you are a creative, continue on that path.
Mm,
You are making differences in the world that you will probably never see. Hopefully you do, but don't stop if it's something that you feel strongly about. And quite honestly, if you are an artist and you become an artist and you're actually out here doing art, like that's successful
mm,
because there's a whole lot of people that weren't able to even be an artist.
mm.
So if you're here, you're doing this work, continue doing that and yeah, make it happen.
Yeah. How can folks find you on the internet? How can they learn more about you?
Yes, so they can follow me everywhere at Cool Urban Hippie, HIPPIE, not the Y. And you can also follow me, or you can, or not follow me. You can visit my website at esotolson.com. That's ESOTOLSON.com.
Awesome. We'll include those links in the show note. So it was a pleasure having you on the show and excited to see what's next for you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man.